Welcome to the All About Ability podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest. We have John Hartson, and it was so much fun talking to him. Everyone kind of knows John's story. We've heard it. He's in the media. He's talked about everything he's been through. And I didn't want to rehash the same stuff, so we had a good chat about the current Celtic team and mental health of footballers and gambling and addiction and how he is now and what he's been doing and how things are, and it was really fun. And also there was a lot of moments that I felt like he really coming from the heart, and it was really quite inspiring to hear him. As much as he says that I'm inspired, I was inspired by him as well. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about what I'm going to be doing for the Celtic FC Foundation in the coming month of April. We're doing a 1000k challenge. I want to get as many people involved as I can. So the 1000k challenge is to raise money for the foundation who are trying to do as much as they can to help the most vulnerable in society, which is exactly what resonates with me and why I'm doing the podcast. So I really felt like it was a good attempt to support them, and I would do some sort of crazy physical challenge, which has ended up with me doing 1000k in a month, which is exciting, also terrifying. If you can join in, support, and do your 5Ks, do your 10Ks, and together maybe we can get 2K between everyone else doing 5Ks and 10Ks throughout the month, and me doing a 1000k, we can get 2K done, and we can raise a lot of good money for charities. My target is to raise £1,000. If you want to join it, you can get us on social media and get involved. Hello and welcome to the All About Ability podcast. This podcast is sponsored by KO Financial, specialists in mortgages and protecting your family's finances. Whether you're looking for the best mortgage for you or want to make sure you and your family aren't struggling if you're seriously ill or pass away, call KO Financial on 0141 447 0290 or email advice@ko-financial.co.uk. I will include this information in the show notes. I feel like that conversation itself is pretty good.
We just peaked too early.
No, we peaked too early. No, but it's great to have you here, John.
Thank you.
I'm still gathering myself and realising you're actually here, so this is pretty cool.
Right.
But everyone kind of knows everything about your career, right? So I don't want to go over the same stuff all the time, but I brought this shirt here, same with the Seville team we were speaking about, and it got me thinking, like, how does this team rank in the teams you've played with?
Oh, it's a magnificent team, full of internationals. I would think every one of them signings is over 30. You know, that goes to show how experienced we were. I'm looking at Paul Lambert there. I'm looking at Henrik. I'm looking at Bobo. You know, myself over that far right there. But we were so experienced. We'd all played for generally good clubs down the years. And it all come together during that year, really. Albeit we actually never won a trophy that year. But I've heard it said before that the Celtic fans wouldn't swap the trip to Seville and that Seville Cup run, the UEFA Cup 2003, for anything, even trophies, you know, the enjoyment that everybody had. Going from Glasgow over to Seville and having a couple of days there, families, children, lifetime memories. You know, the only downside of it, Kieran, was the fact that we couldn't bring the trophy home. But no, that team was immense. I would arguably say it's the best team that I ever played in, sort of man for man.
Yeah.
You know, I could go through the players. You know, I could go through Petrov, Henrik, Chris. You know, fantastic players. Defensively, we were solid. So no, great team and fantastic memories for me.
Brilliant. I mean, how do you think it actually, when you look at the team now, like, even when people talk about the treble teams and Ben Rodgers, there's always that comparison between that team and this team. How do you think that shapes up?
Well, I was down at my golf day a couple of years ago, and Martin O'Neill was there. We always invite Martin. Walter Smith comes as well. You know, Walter's a great guy as well. You know, and I think when it's charity, I think everybody comes together, and you know, you put the rivalry aside, if you like. And we were talking, and Dean Saunders actually said to Martin O'Neill, he said, "Look, Martin," he said, "can I ask you a question?" And the gaffer said, "Yeah, no problem. What is it?" And Dean said, "Well, from the team that you managed, that UEFA Cup team, and the team now," he said, this was 2 or 3 years ago when Brendan Rodgers was in charge. He said, "Well, what do you think if you'd played? What do you reckon? What the score would be?" And this is Dean Saunders asking Martin O'Neill, and Martin went, "About 4." As if it was 4-0, you know. But that was Martin's answer. But I think it's more of a question for maybe the supporters to debate it. You know, things like, you know, would Petrov get in ahead of Brown? Would Thompson get in ahead of Teeny?
Mm-hmm.
You know, would Dembele get in for myself or Chris? So you know, Hendrick's definitely going to be in the team. You know, or whatever. It's not really a question that I'm going to answer because, you know, I'll never be right. You know, I'll never get it right. Somebody will say no, and it's a debate. That's what it's all about. But I would imagine it's something that supporters could sit in a pub somewhere or sit at home and write it down. Write your team, your 11 from the Martin O'Neill era and the Brendan Rodgers era. I suppose you'd have a good bit of fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to argue with Martin O'Neill for sure. I'm not going to argue with Martin O'Neill. If Martin O'Neill said it before now.
I don't know whether he said it tongue in cheek or whether he believed it. Yeah. We'd had a few glasses of wine as well. So.
Fair enough. Yeah. So on a more serious note, like I wanted to talk about the game yesterday, obviously, and the current way things are with the teams. But there was a bit of an issue that made the teams unite, and it was really good to see with Glenn Kamara and the racism and everything that's going on. And I've been thinking about it, like the best way to approach asking about this is, see, you look at clubs doing everything that they do, you know, show racism, the red card, and the players really push it, and yet you're still seeing players on the pitch saying this, and you know, fans in the stands when they could be there. As a group, it would seem that individually we're able to call it out, but when you're in a group, you're able to. It seems like fans are allowed to there's more leeway to get away with it. Mm-hmm. Because I know people that go to the games that every weekend they say, like any ground in the Scotland, there's some sort of racism or sectarianism, and it's just a general thing that seems to be ingrained in it.
Yeah.
What do you think we should be doing more to tackle that? Where does that responsibility lie?
I think the punishment has to be stiffer. I don't think there's enough done. It's very difficult to eradicate every single person on social media. I think it's so easy now. You can set up other accounts, you can racially abuse players, and I think it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgusting. There's really no room for racism in society, never mind football or any other sport. It's and the incident the other night, you know, with Glenn Kamara, he's visibly angered. You can see that.
Yeah.
You can see by his reaction. And then the other players then, you know, galvanised around him, and it was a shame to see how the game ended, you know, in that it put a damper on everything really. So no, it's something, you know, it's something that I think the punishment has to be stiffer, you know, not just taking their account off and things like this, or taking their name off an account, or you know, I would go as far as saying ban these people, ban them for life, because the people that are doing this are uneducated and they're thick. You know, they really are, because they're doing it and they don't know the consequences of what they're sending. You know, it's really upsetting for people to be racially abused. And as I said, for me, it's they've got to clamp down. They've got to clamp down on, if they can find out who the perpetrators are, they've got to really clamp down and send a really strong, firm message that there is no place for racism on the terraces and certainly on the pitch. Now, it's alleged what the Slavia Prague player had allegedly said to Glenn Kamara. We don't know yet. Slavia Prague are fighting it themselves as a club. I believe Glenn Kamara. I believe something was said. It's only my opinion. And it really wasn't nice. And me personally, I put a message out myself to say, let's support Glenn Kamara. Let's get behind him. Let's get behind the Kick Racism Out campaign. There should be punishment if found guilty. And I got quite a decent reaction. Most of my tweets don't, but that one did. I didn't have to block too many after that one. But no, all joking aside, it's disgraceful, and there's no room for that. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's almost like we're constantly talking about it, and yet these things are still happening.
It's how do you stop it, though, Kieran?
Yeah.
How do you stop the dimwits? The numpty heads, as Alan Brazil call them, the numpties. How do you stop these idiotic people, that are uneducated, and they just send in messages and they're just reacting, not understanding the consequences, just throwing anything out there? As I said, the way to deal with it is a bigger punishment.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more, and hopefully we see some strong action taken.
Hopefully, mate. As I said, there is so many, like on Sky right now, it's the Kick It Out campaign, it's Show Racism, the red card, the FA and UEFA. They've thrown millions into this. There's been campaign after campaign after campaign, and it's still happening. That's what's really frustrating. That people, as I said, people who have no respect for others, for any in the race, colour, creed, anything. I played with many players, and it was never an issue. But no, there's no need for it at all.
Definitely, and again, like you said, everything you said there was spot on, and hopefully that now that, because I think a lot of people are on the side of Glenn Kamara, obviously, and the way things have gone, and the part that was disappointing, I suppose, was the idea that there seemed to be a lot of point scoring over these things and the debate from the fans side of things. But when you see something like Scott Brown go over Kamara like he did yesterday,
that was touch of class. Well, Scott's like that, isn't he? That's Brody all over. Scott he gets kicked the lumps out of every other game. When he goes and kicks someone, it's Scott Brown's an animal. Scott Brown's this, Scott Brown's that. But he takes it on the chin, big and strong, gets up, carries on. Never hear him complaining, never hear him moaning. Just gets on with the game. Gets a raw deal at times, I feel. But yesterday, I thought the respect that he showed Glenn Kamara walking into the Rangers side of the half and putting his arm around him and saying, "Look, we're all with you. All the very best. I hope you can get this. Hope you can get justice." And that was a real touch of class from Scott. And I don't even know whether Celtic come up with that idea to even tell him, possibly, to go over to see Glenn Kamara. But knowing Scott like I do, that would have been something that personally he would have gone and did anyway. It speaks volume of the Celtic captain.
Definitely, it leads by example. And
absolutely.
Speaking of the game, so to switch to the actual action on the pitch, what did you make of the game yesterday?
I thought it was a little bit. I know it's Celtic Rangers, but yesterday for me, I thought it was a little bit of a dead rubber. I think the league is won. I don't think Celtic have turned up all season. I think they've had a poor season. There's been one problem after another. And 2 years ago, Celtic went to Ibrox and they won the league. They'd already won the league. Rangers won that game. And Rangers celebrated like, they'd won the European Cup. And I thought, well, Celtic have already got the trophy at Celtic Park. Now, I know the fans would say every time you play, Rangers, it's a huge game. Absolutely, I agree with that. It means a lot to the supporters that you win these games. But I just thought, that's embarrassing. You've just beaten Celtic for the first time all season, and you're celebrating running around the pitch, like doing like huddles and things like that. And there's no need for it. Well, where have you been? You know, and I was hoping that Celtic would do the same yesterday. I thought they'd win the game. I actually thought they would go and win yesterday, but obviously they drew. And I just thought to myself, please don't celebrate and jump around as if you're absolutely delighted with the one challenge I wanted to do was to stop Rangers going through the league, unbeaten. Yeah. Celtic had that opportunity. But it was like yesterday, I thought, no, be humble. Because as I said, the trophy is at Ibrox, the league. Yeah. The league chat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So in terms of the game, and I've heard a few people saying just couldn't really get excited by it, and a lot of the supporters don't want John Kennedy to be manager. They felt the subs could have come on earlier in the second half. Thought that we could have gone and done a bit more to try and win it. But I thought we played very well. I thought it was a definite penalty when Edouard was brought down and he actually got booked for it. I thought, why would he dive in a situation like that as a centre forward? Exactly. Why would he dive? So for me, I thought he was definitely brought down. I thought it was a bit of a lunge from the Rangers player. So on another day, we could have gone on and won the game. But as I said, I think it was almost like, the season's done. You got 5 more games to go. I think it is 5 or 6. The split times and things like that. So Celtic, I thought, played well in patches. Apart from the set piece goal they gave away again, which we've been doing all season. So as I said, that was my feelings on the game. Really, it was just a 1-1 game. We're just seeing the season out now. Basically, I don't think Celtic can be caught for second place. And obviously, Rangers have won the title, so just got to see these games out now.
Yeah, it's quite anticlimactic the way that this season's panned out from a Celtic point of view.
It is, yeah.
But when you look at, when you're speaking about the success that Celtic have had the past few years and how well we've done, but when you actually think about it, the change of the guard, so to speak, of how Rangers have managed to compete so much this season and win the league so comfortably.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about how that actually came about, one of the things that people tend to speak about quite a lot is Michael Beale from the Rangers first team coach. He came in and he gets a lot of credit for helping Gerrard with the team and organising it. And it made me think, how much do you think that Damien Duff leaving Celtic had an impact on the background staff?
I don't know how much Damien Duff was doing personally. I'm not party, obviously, to that group.
Yeah.
I'm not on the part of the coaching staff. Really, I'm not aware of what goes on, what happens on the training ground. I'm like you. I'm just a fan. Honestly, people say to me, "Oh, Big Man, who's you going to pick? What do you think?" I'm like, I haven't got a clue. I don't speak to Neil Lennon. I don't speak to these guys. If I see them at a golf day once every 6 months, we have a cuddle. How's it going? Yeah, you're doing great. Blah blah. How's the family? Yeah. And that's it. We tend to go away from the football because these guys are getting football. So when they come and play golf, they like to talk about something else naturally, So I wasn't aware how what Damien Duff was doing. I do know that looking at it from the outside was when Neil got the job for the second time. I think there was some sort of need for John Kennedy to come in to the closer and work with Neil Lennon in terms of being more of an assistant. I think that prevented Neil from maybe bringing in who he wanted to bring in. And you look at Steven Gerrard, I think he brought 7 or 8 new staff in with him when he became manager. He was allowed to almost bring whoever he wanted in. People that he knew he could trust, people that he believed in, Gary McAllister being one of them, as his assistant. So I don't know. I think going on to maybe the next Celtic manager, I think any manager of his worth, of his salt, will want to come and bring 3 or 4 of his own staff with him.
Yeah.
trusted allies, if you like, the people that he's worked with for many years before that, people that he trusts, people that he goes to when he wants to change the formation. I think you see Steven Gerrard do that now. I think if they're in a game, he's whispering in his assistant's sort of ear, thinking, how can we change this? Because managers need that little bit of help. They need that somebody who's tactically very good alongside them, you know. And I think it makes a difference. It makes a difference sometimes because they're not robots. They need a bit of help, managers, at times. And they've got to go to someone that they trust, you know. So I think Rangers have been able to done that, and they've crept up on Celtic. And this season, they've absolutely cruised to the title. I bet they're sitting there thinking, can't believe how easy this has been, really. We've done it without even Celtic have, you know, haven't even put a fight, really. Haven't put a fight up. So that's what's disappointing for us as Celtic people. But we have to react now. We've got to have a huge reaction. We've got to make sure we get the right guy. There's going to be a turnaround in players. You know, there's going to be a few players that will leave naturally. You've got the loan players that will go back to their clubs. You've got the new manager. How much budget is he going to get? He's going to want to bring in his own players, naturally, because this won't be his team. So there's so much to do. There's so much to sort out between now and the start of next season. So, like you, you're going to ask me who I want, who I fancy. But listen, I think there's been so many names being mentioned, hasn't there?
Yeah.
So it could be one of 7 or 8. I think. I really don't know.
It's very true. I mean, like Neil Lennon, for example, he has one of his biggest features that everyone talks about is the man management side of things. He's very, he's very intimidating. He tells his players how it is, and that's how it works. Mm-hmm. But it would seem that that kind of style is changing in football. And when you look at the top managers in the world, they're very much like supportive of players in the sense of being like, rather than a man management, it's more of a tactical supportive thing, like Klopp. And even Gerrard, you see players with Gerrard hugging Gerrard and really close with him and a tight-knit group. Whereas it seems like Neil's man management style kind of went wrong this season. Do you think that he'll keep going with that or look to adapt his style in the future?
I don't know what Neil's future is. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know. I've not spoken to him. But in terms of, I think the game has evolved. I think the game has changed. 20 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever it was, when I was playing under Martin O'Neill, Martin would say to me, how many crocodile sandwiches did you have last night? And things like that. Because I was always a little bit heavy in my shorts, I was always carrying maybe a little bit. And I would just have a laugh at him. That was it. Yeah. You maybe say that to a player now and he takes the ump. He can't handle it. He maybe goes off and as a grizzle to his agent and says, "Oh man, just picking on me. Manager can't say that." And all of a sudden it's out there in the media. The dressing room that I played in normally was quite tight. Nothing ever got out, and that old school sort of what people tend to say. But the game has moved on, you've got sports science now, and you can almost give players a blood test. You can almost tell what type of sleep they had the night before. There's these red zones where sports scientists the sports scientist will tell the manager, we can't play this player. He's in the red zone. Yeah. His stats are, he's done more sprints, he's covered this much ground, he's tracked back, and he's in a certain zone by looking at his blood test and his heart monitor. We've got to leave him out. We've got to give him a rest. I think one year at Celtic Park, I think we used, under Martin O'Neill, we used 17 players. That was it. Yeah. If we won and I scored and Henrik scored and Chris and Neil played well and Lenny and Stan and the back four, the three at the back, played well, why change it? We'll play the same team next week. There was none of this, he needs a rest. We've got a European game coming up Thursday. I've got to think of my team for that and then think of my team for next Sunday. No, we played. I didn't want to rest. if I'd scored and played well and the team had won, I'd be devastated being left out of the team. What are you leaving me out for? Play me. I'm on fire. I'm going well. Whereas now, you look at Manchester United yesterday, they made 4 subs after 60 minutes. They left Matic out. They let Fernandes out. They left Shaw out. I'm always a big believer. Why did you start with these players, get in front if you can, and bring them off? Why take a risk and leave them all out and change the team? It changes the whole dynamics, I feel. So in terms of squad sizes, and how you talk to players and how you deal with players now, Jose Mourinho's done it in the last 3 or 4 years. He lost the dressing room at Chelsea, Real Madrid, Man United. The players started to have a bit of a moan. And even now at Spurs, he's calling them out. He said the other night as if he cares more than the players. Players take that personally. He says they never showed enough commitment. A lot of the supporters would say, well, yeah, that's honest. That's what they want to hear. Be honest. That's what we want to hear from our manager. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't the fans want to hear it. But the players sometimes can be a little bit, the players nowadays are, I would say, they're more protected, if you like. They're more protected in terms of you can't really speak to them in a certain way. You've got to put your arm around them, and some managers might struggle to deal with that. So generally, I think in today's modern game, as a manager, I think you've got to be aware of how you speak to the players, and that's crazy. It's a crazy thought, but that's where we are now in 2021.
Do you think that's because the players have, the reason why they have such a bigger say than they did before is because of the money that's involved?
Well, the money now is unbelievable, isn't it? The money that players are earning now. And generally when there's a dressing room of 4 or 5 unhappy players on big money, if it comes to the decision, do you get rid of all them players or do you just get rid of the manager? It's generally the manager goes. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of keeping the players on side. How do you cope with your seething inside? You see a player not being committed, not giving his all. He's on huge financial wages, and you see him not trying a leg or skipping out of a tackle or not jumping to win a header. You want to call it as it is. The fans want you to call it, but you can't as a man. That must be so hard because the backlash. If you throw these players under the bus, they could potentially turn against you, and that's where I think the game has changed. And the big managers now can deal with all the big egos and everything else. They are few and far between now. Yeah,
because the sport has changed, and it used to be very much, when you look at the roots of most clubs, have charity roots, and now it seems like they've lost the meaning of what the football game is about in terms of the working class and actually appealing to the support. Do you feel like that's sort of what's changed in the sense of like clubs have lost the identity of what actually made them begin what they were doing in the first place?
Well, maybe, Kieran, maybe. But what I also feel as well, I think footballers sometimes get a bit of a raw deal. I think they do a lot of things that are not in the public eye, and they don't do it to get credit for it. Look, I know every Christmas the Celtic players would go, so the Rangers players would go with bags and bags of presents and give them to the sick children at the Sick Children's Hospital in Glasgow, formerly York Hill, the hospital. And the cameras turn up on that day, great, yeah, it's all lovely, nice and everything else. And they do that out of the goodness of their hearts. And I know personally, I get so many Instagram messages, cancer survivors and people who are struggling and everything else, and I get back with personal messages, and I know the players do that as well. So I think sometimes you can look at it and say, well, people like to label footballers as prima donnas and put themselves on a pedestal. No doubt there is a couple of players that do that. But in general, from the experience that I had, every one of the players that I played with they were fantastic with the support. They go out of their way in terms of standing there for hours and signing autographs in the pouring down rain. And as I said, every Christmas time we go and take presents to the children at the hospitals. And so as much as people like to call footballers out, you know, I can say from my own experience, the footballers do a hell of a lot of good work that doesn't even get into the public domain. You know, I know that for a fact.
That's amazing to hear. Actually, I didn't even know most of that. So
yeah, they do. Yeah.
But see, in terms of like players when they finish playing, like yourself, and now you're obviously a pundit and you're doing really well and doing a lot of different things. But you see a lot of players struggling with like mental health and what they do next after football. And there's only like a small selection of pundits actually doing these things like yourself, and you know. There's probably about 10 I could name, but there's thousands of footballers.
Yeah, spot on. That's a great point, Kieran. Yeah. It helps if you can talk. It helps if you can speak. You know, but I say that tongue in cheek. But I was very lucky because when I finished playing football, I was only 33, which is relatively young. But I got cancer. I had a really bad sort of news on my health and everything. I had testicular cancer that spread to my lungs onto my brain. Once I got over that, I then started to go into the media, and I was very blessed because a few companies backed me, and Satanta at the time, BBC, the Welsh speaking channel, and I was living down in Wales, and I was very fortunate that I was able to literally go from football, get over my illness, a life-threatening illness, I had 2 brain operations, emergency operations, a load of chemotherapy. But when I got stronger again, I was lucky because I got opportunities to go into the media straight away. And I've been 10, 12 years now doing media, set up the John Hartson Foundation, had a bit of fun, raised an awful lot of money for good causes. So I've been all right in that sort of sense. But I know an awful lot of footballers that I played with that are now really struggling. And I look at them and I think, how can you be struggling? You was life and soul of the party. You was fantastic. But at the time, they were in the midst of their careers. They were earning decent money. They were earning decent wages. They were happy. They were settled in their families and things like this. And then I see these videos now, and it's heartbreaking because they're not. Once they finish playing football, they're no longer playing. They're not in the media. The money dries up, and all of a sudden, then you start getting, you start thinking how good a days you used to have, and how, you know, you're now thinking, what am I going to do next? And then the mental health kicks in. And then you're looking all over social media every day and you're seeing your mate here, your mate there. And then depression kicks in. And there's several ways that obviously I've been depressed. There's no doubt about it. At some stage in my life, I've been depressed. I think when I went through a divorce, I had a gambling addiction. I put a hell of a lot of weight on. I came through cancer. All these types of things, they're all common facts that can make you depressed and make you down. So there's no doubt in my life I would have been depressed at some stage. But I've also been very lucky in the sense that I've always continued to get something to keep me focused, to keep me in a nice, good state of mind, you know. So in terms of that, it's heartbreaking now for people that I see, you know, in a bad way. Really, really in a bad way, depressed, mental health and these things. And they go in walking and they're raising money for charity. They're just doing really good things now that puts them in a good place, in a good place in their own minds, that keeps them going, that gets them up in the morning, you know. And so credit to them, you know, they're fighting away, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, you see like, obviously you've been through a lot and you just spoke about that there, like you've got an incredible story with everything you've done and what you continue to do. And look at somebody like Sterling Petrov as well. Like he's actually started a Players for Players. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
But it's just specifically designed to support footballers past and present.
Right.
And
He hasn't helped me yet.
Well, that's true. Need to get him on that. Need to give him a text. What's happening
No, I'm
with
only joking. I love Stan. I love Stilly.
But like, there seems to be like that's becoming. It seems to be more pushed from the players than it is from clubs and actual the support around that. Because even footballers coming up now, you see that there's like millions spent on sports psychology, but they put so much into these players making it and investing in them, saying we want you to be good, and a lot of these players don't make it. Not everyone's keen Tierney.
I know.
And so when they put their whole life into it, and then they go, then some of them are getting pulled away by just getting a text and saying, you're not getting a new contract this year. Do you think that more could be invested into like actually putting general mental health support around these guys and support?
Definitely, I think, but I do think it's out there. I think there's certain courses that the government sort of can help with and put these sort of players who are being told since they are 10 years of age, right up until they were 16, look, son, you're going to be the next David Beckham. And all of a sudden they get to 16 and they don't get a scholarship. And they get disillusioned with football. They get disillusioned with life. They get themselves into this dark little place where their hopes of themselves was so high and they were going really well. And then on that particular day where the clubs make the decisions, sorry. So at 16, not everybody is strong enough at that age to go, well, okay, I'll go to another club and I'll prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. I'll go and have a trial. I'll seek somewhere else. Lots do that, and they get on. Declan Rice got released at Chelsea. He's now flying at West Ham. You know, that's one instance. But there's loads of kids that get depressed and they get disillusioned with life and everything because for 5 or 6 years during high school, they're flying, they're going really well. They're not really concentrating too much on their education because they're thinking, well, I'm going to go off to this football club. They really like me, the academies. You know, they do a couple of days at the academy every week and they get to 16 and they get told that, sorry, there's no scholarship, there's no contract. And they're like, well, what am I going to do? I'm 16 years of age. I'm not the most academical person in school. And it's like, well, what do I do next? You know, but I think there is I think the government are working hard in terms of trying to help a lot of these young children. I think the academies of the clubs are as well, in terms of getting them out and doing something else. You know, although their dreams are totally broken because they put all their thoughts and efforts into being a footballer or a rugby player or a cricketer, whatever it may be. And then it's devastating for them. It really, really is. And, you know, there is things on that they can go and do, courses and things like this. And then you've got to try and maybe switch tack and get a trade, become a plumber, become anything, you know, an engineer or anything like this, because you've got to think of your next 50, 60 years on the planet. You've got to go and get yourself something, you know, to concentrate on, whether that's a college course or university or whatever it is. But it is, you know, because I was fortunate, again, I was lucky I've not been there, and I'm blessed that I can talk like this because I've not had the experience of being let down on that side. But it must be awful. I know a few of my friends, when I was growing up with, they got told that they weren't going to be players. I just went straight away at 16 up to Luton. Then I went to Arsenal at 19, and then my career just blossomed. So I've been very, very lucky and blessed. My career's gone sort of, I've been unlucky since I left football with the cancer, you know, but I was also very lucky to come through cancer, if you like. You know, and I can't get a manager's job. I've applied for about 10 jobs. I can't get a job. So
maybe you'll get the Celtic one, who knows?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But maybe I'm too honest. That's what it is. Maybe I wouldn't be good to work with. I don't know. But no, as I said, going back to mental health, you know, I think there's more now, you know, in terms of support and guidance and all these things to help. Unfortunately, the people that are suffering through mental health, and this pandemic hasn't helped, has it? the COVID hasn't helped at all.
Definitely not.
You know, in terms of can't get out, can't go nowhere. I've got 5 kids, can't even go for a meal, can't do nothing. You know, and people are struggling. People are generally struggling because, you know, they can't do nothing. You know, it's just it's not a nice period, is it?
No, it's definitely not. Like, you're talking about what you've been through and coming through cancer, for example. Like, did you come through that with a whole different kind of perspective that you had before it?
Well, it just hit me like a bus, really. You just got to deal with it, you know. I've definitely changed in terms of my personality and in terms of my appreciation for life. Because when you come so close, you know, to losing your life, really, to losing your battle, and I was extremely close at one stage. I was taking my last breath, you know, and to come through that, you know, you are different altogether. You know, I think it's the simple things in life, time with my children, time with the family, you know, good times, and walking along a beach, you know, holding your daughter's hands and jumping around. And these things you appreciate a lot more now, because it all nearly got taken away from me, you know. I had testicular cancer that spread to my lungs and spread to my brain. So I spent 6 weeks in hospital. I had tremendous support, generally from the football world. And I thoroughly appreciate that. Every letter, you know, every bunch of flowers that was sent to the hospital where I was in Swansea. And it helped me. It helped me get through. Definitely helped me get through, because when somebody's sending you a letter and saying, look, you know, you got to come through this, you know, you're an inspiration, and you read that letter, it's of a little child and something like that, it definitely gives you a boost. And every letter, you know, every bit of fan mail that come to the hospital, boxes and boxes of letters and goodwill cards and things, it certainly helped me, pushed me on to come through, really. Because when you're fighting cancer, you don't know, it can go 2 ways. You know, if the chemotherapy doesn't have an effect on my body, then unfortunately there's, you know, I had cancer in my brain, cancer on my lungs, my testicles, and it spreads. You know, it spread all over my body, and I was very blessed, very lucky.
It's an amazing story. It's like, it's crazy that was, what was that, like 10, 11 years ago now or something?
10 years ago, it was 2000 and sorry, it was 11 years ago now. Yeah, time's just gone like that. I lost my sister a couple of months ago, Hayley. She was only 47. She was 18 months older than me. She had a heart attack and died straight on the spot, really. It was horrendous. My parents will never get over it. Well, none of us will get over it, really. So it's not been a great year in terms of that, really. I had a knee replacement operation. I've not been able to get back to work. So listen, people are going through things every day in life. You know, I'm not one to mourn about things. I'm a positive person, but it's not been a brilliant year for myself and my family and things like that. So, but you know, it's something that, you know, I've got to be strong. I've got to be strong for my kids. I've got to be strong. You know, I'm the man of the family, and it's not something that we do, is it, men? We don't complain. We just try and get on with things, really. But it's not been a great year all around, really, for me.
You're spot on about the men part as well. Like, we don't really talk about things like this, and the way you're able to speak about it so openly and honestly is.
Yeah, well, that's the way I am. I'm always very honest, and you know, I don't see any other way I can be. I don't try and pretend. Sometimes I say the wrong things. Sometimes I don't say it right, but you know, I think most people know where I'm trying to come from. Really, I've got a lot of empathy for people. I'm sitting here now with you, Kieran. I've driven through from Edinburgh. I don't want no praise for it. It's just something that I do, and I'm probably going in Thursday. I'll answer 4 Instagram messages. I might go and visit a lad in a hospital. You know, someone who's just had leukemia. Somebody's coming through cancer, and I do things like this all the time. You know, and I think it's important. I think if people look up to you and, you know, and they call you there one day, you know, when I was watching Celtic, John, you were my hero, and all of a sudden they become ill, you know, and then their hero goes to see them. It makes a massive difference to that person's life, you know.
You have such a huge influence, and you're able to use that in such a positive way. It's really cool to hear that.
No, thank you, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Because some people some people aren't as nice about it. So it's really the way that you carry yourself about it.
Yeah.
It does make a difference, and I really appreciate you being here as well.
No problem. It's like my dad always said to me, you know, in life, he said, especially in the world that you've decided to take, you know, that route, you know, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, you know, and that's the way life goes, really. Sometimes you have a right kick in the teeth and you're down, and other times, you know, you're up there. So he always used to say to me, just try and stay normal, just try and stay sort of balanced, if you like. And that's where I have been. I've had some bad lows and I've had some incredible highs, but I've always remained quite humble, you know, from a council estate in Swansea, like many of us. And I couldn't go into my local pub and I give it the big one. I'll put myself up there, you know. I'm just one of the lads, and that's the way I like to be.
Yeah, that's the only way to be. And you see a lot of people that get big-headed and things, and they end up struggling more with
That's
all
right,
this
I
kind of stuff.
know, yeah, I know.
It's always important to be balanced. But you spoke about different things you've been through, and one of those things you touched on was gambling. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I bring this up is that we had somebody on recently. His name's Paul Pettigrew. He runs a company called Cam Talk, which focuses on. He's a young guy who's been through a lot with gambling as well, and he raises awareness for supporting people with that. And we were talking about his one's coming out after you, and we were talking about different areas of young people with gambling just now. And this is something I wanted to ask you about. Was he mentioned that when you look at like tobacco and alcohol, they're kind of not like they've had to regulate themselves, so you don't see them everywhere any time of the day. But with betting, it seems like that's all over the place now. Even like every football game you watch is like Bet365, and there's so many. Even just from my house, there's 4 to 5 bookies either side, basically.
Yeah.
You know, so he was talking about the fact that when you compare gambling to something like alcohol and tobacco, the reason why gambling is still able to get away with it is the idea that there's not as much physical consequence. Mm-hmm. But do you see that now that the mental health aspect of things is becoming more prevalent? That's becoming a thing where people are starting to realise that there are issues with gambling.
There's a huge issues in gambling. Gambling is ruining people's lives. It has been for a long time. I've been nearly 10 years clean. I gambled every day before that for 20 years. Up until 10 years ago, and I've not bought a raffle ticket in 10 years. That's why I live in my house in Edinburgh. That's why I've got the car that I've got, because I don't gamble. And I'm in a much better place. I can focus. Gambling doesn't control my life. Addictions control every minute, every movement of your life. You know, if you're an alcoholic, you'd hide a bottle of vodka under your pillow, and you tell your wife you haven't had a drink for 3 months. You know, that's what you do. If you're a gambler, then you know you gamble everything. You gamble everything you've got. You know, and at one stage, I've been very lucky in the sense that I've been right up there. I've been low, and I'm managing to get somewhere, you know, on the level keel again now. And gambling for me controlled every single second, every moment of my life, you know, for 10 years. Sorry, for the best part of 15, 20 years. And I'm so much in a better place now. In terms of I go to GA, I follow the fellowship. I've got friends that go, and I managed to stay off it. And people that are addicted to things, addictions are very, very difficult to crack. Incredibly hard when you become an addict, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, whether it's gambling, whether it's gaming, whether it's whatever, you know, a very, very serious situation when you become an addict. I am now a reformed I'm a former recovering gambling addict. That's what I am. I'm a recovering gambler, and I will always be a recovering gambling addict. You know, I've got a day by day. I won't gamble today. Next Thursday, I'll go make sure I'm at that meeting, 7 till 9. And not this moment in time, because the meetings are all closed. They've been closed for about 8 months because of the COVID. But when they open up again, I'll be there twice a week, every week, and I have been for 10 years because I know how important it is. It's important for me to stay clean, because if I'm right, my family's right. If I'm all over the place and gambling every penny, then there's ructions, there's problems, there's issues. I'm not well, I'm mentally not well when I was gambling. I'm much better now because I don't gamble. But there's gambling is massive in society, and it's huge in sport as well. In terms of players getting into debt, getting into problems, not changing their life habits, things like this. It's very hard. It's very hard for players. And I would never, ever tell anybody to stop gambling because you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
If they ask me, can you help me? I'll meet you Thursday, 6:00, and I'll take you to a meeting. From that meeting, I'll introduce you to people, and then it's up to you. It's entirely up to you then. But I'll introduce you to the group, and then it's up to you how serious, how committed you are, to this sort of program, if you like. And I've got so much help and guidance with it. And a lot of people think, GA is something that they don't fancy or whatever, but it worked for me. Because I felt when I went into that meeting, there's another 10 people there, and they're all like me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I'm John Hartson, the ex-football player. I'm John. And I'm John, and I need help. I'm an addict. Paul's an addict. Peter's an addict. Stephen's an addict. Malcolm's an addict. And they've all told every single lie there is to tell in their life. Because compulsive gamblers are compulsive liars. People are liars. Yeah. That's what we do. We're not well, we're sick. We're unwell. Gambling is an illness. I'm not a bad person. I'd give somebody my last tenner. I'd give a tenner to a tramp off the street to go and get a meal. I'm not a bad person. I've raised 5 children, never laid a finger on my kids. But you put me in the bookies, and I've changed. I'm just absolutely focused on this. What I'm doing, it takes over your life, takes over your world. And as I said, gambling is rife out there, and that's what I say to people, that if you want to do something about it, then you've got to be serious about it. You've got to follow the program and do it for yourself. Don't do it for your kids or your wife or your parents. Do it for yourself. Because if you're all right, they're all right.
Yeah. When did you realise that there was a problem with it?
Well, I hit rock bottom, and most addicts have to hit that place, I think, to really, for the penny to drop, And my wife said to me 10, 11 years ago, we were living in Swansea before we came to Edinburgh. She said, I'm off. She said, I've had enough. She said, I can't cope with this anymore. And I'm taking the girls and my kids with me. And I just dropped down, literally dropped down to my knees and pleaded with her not to go, And she'd told me a few times, but never packed her bags, never booked flights, never arranged to go and stay in Glasgow with her friend. And well, she was going, she was off. So that was my rock bottom. My family is my life, it's my world. It's why I go to work, it's why I live for my kids. So without my family, I'm nothing. I couldn't, exist probably. So that was it. And I went to GA that Sunday night after a load of discussing and pleading and promises again, after one promise after another promise. But I went, it was October the 5th, 2011 or 12, 2011. What are we now, 2021? Yeah. October the 5th, 2011, my mother's birthday, of all days. And I went into that meeting in Swansea, GA meeting, and the hardest thing I've ever done to do was walk through them doors. you know, and I just sat down. They made me feel very welcome. They said, this is all private, confidential, what you say. On October the 5th now coming up this year, we're going to be 10 years clean. My mother's birthday. October the 5th, 2021. So it was October the 5th, 2011 was my last bet. So I had to go, I had to do something. But in the end, I got tired.
Yeah.
I got tired of the lies, the gambling, the deceit. You know, my life in the last 10 years has been great. I'm a lot more relaxed. You know, I'm not gambling every single penny that I've got. I must have done 600 or 700 shows in the last 10 years. And I'm not seeing a bean because my wife takes care of all the money. So that's working. That's the way, you know, it's absolutely fine. You know.
Brilliant. It sounds like you've got a really good support system. Really.
Yeah, and that's where I am today now, Kieran, you know. You know, you still lose your rag when Celtic get beat now and again, but apart from that, you know, I'm all right. I'm in a good place.
Yeah, it's amazing, like what you've actually managed to come through, because a lot of the things, even, you know, one of the things you've been through, like when you look at all of them, if any of those individual things happen to one person, that could be enough to make them crumble. And you've actually been able to deal with them all, which is quite remarkable, really. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of things happened, you know. You look at the going away from home when you're young. Lots of people struggle to go away from home. And then the gambling addiction that I carried for many years, you know, my divorce. You know, my 5 beautiful children, you know, everything else, going from club to club. I enjoyed my career, you know. But no, as I said, I think sometimes I probably don't pat myself on the back because I'm so very humble, very normal. I try not to give myself any sort of, I don't think on them terms really, you know. I'd rather look after somebody else. I'd rather give somebody else a pat on the back than do it myself. But it's been a bit of a story. It's been a bit of a life, you know. But you know, it's been great. You know, I've got good people, I've got good friends around me. You know, I'm in a good place.
It's amazing, and we spoke about a lot of personal deep things there. And I in terms of this podcast, and I know you've done a lot of different interviews, but one thing that doesn't get spoken about much from my point of view is, obviously, I'm in a wheelchair. I've got cerebral palsy, and I play this sport called wheelchair football. I showed you a wee clip of it before. We spoke about football quite a bit there. But in terms of disability football and disability sport, like there's so many scenarios that we don't really get any sort of coverage. You see like women's football, there's more and more push to get teams involved and clubs involved. And there's even like the argument of equal pay and things like that, which is great to see that that's even been part of a discussion. Mm-hmm. But when you look at disability and this push for equality, we're kind of left out of the discussion, it seems like. And from actually, because I've played for Scotland in the wheelchair football, and you get to these top levels and you realise that nobody's
sad.
You know, nobody's watching. And it's
that achievement that you feel, you know, you've achieved in your family. It's amazing. It's amazing, you know. And I'm not sounding patronising. I'm not going to be patronising, but you know, there should be more. Should be more, shouldn't there? You know, campaigns, and the government should maybe help a little bit more. And, you know, as I said, it's no, that's sad. That's sad to hear that.
For example, there's a guy that fights in one of the major MMA associations, Bellator, and he has one arm, and he's able to compete with your basically non-disabled people.
Yeah.
And he's doing really well. He's smashing it.
Yeah.
Do you that kind of got me thinking, like, could you see something in the future where somebody with one arm or something could come to a mainstream football club and try out and actually, or do you think they would go for something like that and just be written off right away just because, you know, because...
I don't know, Kieran, I don't know, mate. I don't know what the guidelines are in football and things, but I'm a big believer in, if you're talented and you can still compete, you know, with the non-disability athletes, then why not? You know, you look at golf. I've played with a man with one arm, and he's an unbelievable Welsh guy. And he can draw it, he can putt, he's as good as anybody else, but they play on a different tour. So, but I don't know. I don't know how far they would go, the clubs, in terms of dealing with all that side of things, really. But the one thing I'd say is, if you're as good with one arm as what other players are with two arms, then why not? Why not?
Exactly, and that's the point. Is we're not coming out and saying we want to get paid like Ronaldo or Messi.
That's right.
But it's just the idea that we're not even getting the chance to showcase it.
Yeah, no, that's sad. I said that's poor. That is really poor, and it's a shame that as a group of people, the government and everything else, all your teammates and stuff, you don't maybe start a petition and to put it out there.
See, this is in terms of actual football clubs coming in, we have clubs all over our league. People are probably listening to this being like, what's he talking about? But so we have clubs in Edinburgh and Glasgow and based around everywhere, but there's not actually many clubs associated with the mainstream clubs. So like, there's no Celtic team or Rangers team or
no,
and I guess this is like a good opportunity for me to highlight it with someone like yourself to say maybe these clubs should be looking at putting in a wheelchair football team or amputee football team and showcasing that a bit more.
Well, I think they if they were made aware of it,
which is why like having someone like yourself, talking about it,
it would be wonderful if they could do something like this. Now I know they do lots of things with the community and everything else. I know they do as a football club. They do many things. Charity is something really big. The football clubs tend to do. So listen, don't rule it out. Maybe you and a couple of mates need to turn up and bang Peter Lawwell's door down.
I would happily say that, because it's like I've played the sport for like 10 years now, and the thought of not being able to wear a Celtic shirt one day would be
unbelievable.
So
I bet it would. Yeah.
And that's how this starts, is because, like, for example, like you're talking about the different charities and things. A lot of these clubs are, so what will happen is for disability things, it will go through the foundations, and the foundations do great work.
Yeah.
But when you approach these foundations about actually having a competitive team, the argument is that they don't want to do anything competitive. Like they don't want to make these teams like a Powership football team or put them in a league and to somewhere that's actually a competitive environment, because they don't want to, what was the word they used? They said they don't want to they don't want to cause any disruption to what's going on. Mm-hmm. But my argument to that is always, as much as I understand what they're, the way they're coming from it, as somebody that's actually in a wheelchair, my argument is always, we have the right to be as competitive as anybody else.
Of course you do.
Like, you've obviously reached that really top level and done a lot, but I'm really competitive, and a lot of these guys and girls are really. Like when they play, it's not friendly.
Well, I wouldn't fancy picking you up from a corner in the last minute. I'd jump higher than I could.
Exactly. Like we could even do a thing where we could actually, because of the way the chairs are designed, we could actually pass the ball to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, people don't realise that. Like, see if you've seen, I think there's always this assumption when you watch our sport that if you sat in the chair it would be easy. But I tell you, we've had players come from, like Clyde have had their team come and sit in the chairs, and they were hopeless. They were all over the place.
It's a skill. Yeah, it's a skill.
So in terms of like the actual skill that it takes and the competitiveness that there is, like I spoke to a few people about this. The idea that when you look at the English Premiership, one of the arguments is that the kind of soul from that league is almost gone, in the sense that there's just so much money in it.
Yeah.
That it's lost its touch with the fans a wee bit.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and when I talk about disability sport, what my point is that passion is very much still there. The fire to actually be competitive and how much people want it is there. And if that was showcased, I'm sure people would be into it.
Well, that's what I mean. I think the best way to go about it is to get a load of your teammates and things like this, and get a petition going. In terms of you want to highlight it and you don't feel there's enough support. That's the only thing I would say.
It's a good idea.
You've got my number. You've got if I can get behind it in any way,
brilliant.
Then I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. Really, I can't make it happen, but if you up my weight, and I've got a fair bit of weight behind me as well, so I can push it on for you maybe.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's about, and I really appreciate that.
No, you're welcome. As I said, I'm saying here, I don't know if I can make it happen, but I'll certainly sign the petition and I'll try and go through the right channels, and if I can help you at all, I will.
Because all I'm trying to do is start the conversation.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you've started it, so
exactly.
That's good.
Because it's just like, when I think about why I started doing this, and the whole idea of when you're actually, because I've always been in a wheelchair, so it's not like something that was just sprung upon me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this idea in your head that you're not able to do a lot of things. And as I kind of came through that and realised I could do a lot of things, it was kind of wanting to show younger people coming through that with a disability that you can't have a conversation with John Hartson on a podcast, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're inspirational, mate, and people say this to me, it's like, well, at the end of the day, I've just gone and done what, but it's people like you that inspire me, it really is, what you were born, you had to straight away into a wheelchair, you've represented your country, you've played football, in a wheelchair. That's inspiring for me. You could sit me down with Pele, and I'm more inspired by you than I am with him. Honestly, because to me, what you've done is incredible, and I mean that. I mean that with the goodness of my heart.
That means a lot. There's a sentence I thought I've never heard.
No problem. It's all right.
Being compared to Pele, man, I'm like, where do you even go from here now? I don't even know what to say next. But yeah, no, that's amazing. And
no problem.
And
but that's empathy from me.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered about the biggest players in the world. I would rather go and support somebody who's come through adversity and got to where you are today. Through fighting and your soul and everything else, that to me means more to me than any top footballer or anything like that, So credit you, mate. Credit you, Kieran.
Thank you. Do you think that coming up from that working class background is what kind of helped you keep steady through your career?
Yeah, 100%. But a lot of players are working class backgrounds, really. Not a lot of these players are born with the silver spoon in their mouth, and nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy. And I think now when you're a young footballer and academies, they would rather see kids that come in and work really hard and run and graft, kick people and get back up and be kicked and respect. Pick your opponent up from the floor and these type of things. But you've got to work hard. You've really got to work now. Rather, I think hard work beats talent. Yeah, hard work beats talent.
Well, I mean that people kind of dismiss that as some sort of cliche, cheesy thing, but it's actually very true.
I think if you've got talent as well, it certainly helps. You've got to have some sort of talent. Of course, you have. You've got to be able to pass the ball and things like that. But hard work now. I think clubs. It's all about the team. It's not about the individual. It's not about the talented players. Talented players, of course, they help. They play a huge role in winning games and things like this. But if you've got somebody that can graft and you've got 11 players in a team that can all work together in tandem, I think that's what managers are looking for now. They want to see people graft and hard work because the game is getting so fast. And you look at all the athletes now, all the players are like that. They don't carry a pound.
Yeah,
the diet, the discipline, everything else now is unbelievable now with a modern day footballer. And as I said, 20, 30 years ago, you could have a couple of pints, you could have a bit of tomato sauce for your lunch and all this stuff. The players now, Ronnie Dyler didn't used to let Lee Griffiths have tomato sauce with his McDonald's chips. What about that? I'd have 20 nuggets and chips.
But it shows you how strict it's got.
It's got strict, mate. It's got strict, and all the players are adhering to it now. They're all getting it, and it's that criteria what managers are looking for now. You've got to fit into that criteria.
That is so true. And do you think that's why like Celtic got so much stick for the Dubai? This the picture of Lennon and Brom and the Pikes.
I don't know so much about that. What was really weird for me was with that, Peter Lowell was coming out. When they came back and he apologised for the Celtic going, and then Neil came out the following day and almost defending the fact that they went. So I think there's a bit of a mix-up really with even to today, I don't know whether it was right or wrong. I don't think I've read into it that much, to be honest with you.
Mm.
But there was different messages coming out from Celtic, which I don't think really helped anybody really. But there we are. It's gone now, and we've just got to react and try and get the title back next season, haven't we? And obviously, we still got the Scottish Cup.
Exactly. I mean, it sort of summed up our season. That whole the way that all went about, it was so crazy.
Yeah, it was. There was loads of different things. You know, there was some of the guys getting COVID. You know, Edouard missed the first Celtic Rangers game, didn't he, at the start of the season? And then Turnbull never really got going, never came into the team until about December. And then there was a period where Sorrow was keeping Bruni out for a while and in that diamond shape. You know, the recruitment's not been great. Shane Duffy, unfortunately for him, he's not really hit the ground running, really. And I thought he was going to be a good player for us when he first signed. You know, Klimala's not done it, although he's young. Ayeti's not come in and scored a load of goals. So there's been different problems all season. And besides that, Rangers have had a good year. They're still unbeaten, you know, and they did well in Europe, and they've managed to win the title before the split. So as much as it's difficult, I think, you know, from my side of view, doing a lot of media and things like this, you know, you have to give them a little bit of credit for what they've gone on and achieved. You know, it was as big to them to stop the 10 as it was for us. I think Martin O'Neill said that on the telly yesterday. Yeah. As huge, unprecedented opportunity that we had to go and win 10 titles in a row, it was just as important for Rangers to stop that in terms of the history of their club, you know, and they managed to do it.
Definitely, credit has to go to Rangers because there's 20 points ahead. You don't win, you can't just, it's not a fluke if you're 20 points ahead.
Celtic got a good side. Yeah. Celtic got a fantastic team with some brilliant players. So for Rangers to have won it by the amount of points that they have, you've got to tip your hat to them and give them a lot of credit. They won the league at a canter. So it's important now that we respond to that and we get our title back next season.
Exactly, and apparently the Champions League group stage is up for grabs as well.
Yes,
if whoever wins that, according to the coefficient, anyway. I looked into it a wee bit. Apparently, if whoever wins the league next season goes right into the group stage,
straight in without the qualifiers. Yeah,
that's if the team that wins the Champions League also qualifies for the league position, which is usually the case.
And them qualifiers can be tricky. They can be they're not easy qualifiers because you're playing teams that are halfway through their season. Yeah, and they're up and running. You're doing pre-season, and you're trying to get your players fit and then get them into a system and then play games. So